Class 6 ICSE Physics Unit 4 Part 3. Let us recall the topics what we have learned in the last class. Force. Force is nothing but a push or a pull. Effects of force. There are some effects of force like force can cause motion, force can increase speed, force can decrease speed, force can change the direction of motion, force can change shape and size. The unit of force is Newton. Contact forces. Forces that two bodies in contact apply on each other are called contact forces. Friction. The force that opposes or prevents motion between two surfaces in contact is called the force of friction. Now, let us learn some new words related to the topic we are going to learn today. First one is friction. F-R-I-C-T-I-O-N. Friction. Second one, sliding friction. S-L-I-D-I-N-G. Sliding friction. F-R-I-C-T-I-O-N. Sliding friction. Third one, lubricants. L-U-B-R-I-C-A-N-T-S. Lubricants. Fourth one, polished. P-O-L-I-S-H-E-D. Polished. Fifth one, machines. M-A-C-H-I-N-E-S. Machines. As I already said, the force that opposes or prevents motion between two surfaces in contact is called the force of friction. When you walk or run, you push the ground backward with your foot. The tendency of the foot is to move in that direction. So the force of friction opposes this tendency and acts in the opposite direction. That is, in the direction in which you want to move. This helps you move forward. So the force of friction helps us to walk on the ground. The friction between the wheels of a vehicle and the surface of the road allows the wheel to roll forward. So when friction is reduced, the wheels slide instead of rolling and the vehicle skids. This is why cars skid on wet, muddy, oily or ice-covered roads. Friction is also useful in applying the brakes. Brakes are applied to stop a vehicle. The force of friction between the brake shoes and the wheels slows down the wheels. Friction allows us to hold objects between our fingers. Isn't it? Friction helps us to write things on the note. So here friction allows us to grip an object. For example, a pencil, pen or whatever it may be between our fingers. So the object has a tendency to fall. The force of friction stops this tendency. Do you know? Pencils write because of friction. The lead of a pencil is made of graphite. So the friction between the lead of a pencil and paper causes small particles of graphite to break off and get deposited on the paper. Can you figure out why it is difficult to write on smooth surfaces such as glass and polythene? Children, do you know what is called sandpaper? So in the screen we can see the sandpaper used by the carpenter. Do you know why they use this sandpaper? Friction is used to smoothen surfaces. So you might have seen a carpenter use sandpaper to smoothen the surface of wood. The large force of friction produced when this rough paper is rubbed on wooden wears down the tiny bumps on the surface. When two surfaces rub against each other, the friction between them produces heat. This has some uses. You all would have rubbed your hands together when they feel cool. Primitive man, that is earlier man, lit fires by rubbing pieces of stone or wood against each other. So to ignite a match, we rub it against a rough surface, as we all know. The heat produced by friction makes the chemicals on its heads catch fire. Now let us see some three ways how to increase the friction. Because we know that we have a lot of things to do with friction. So wherever friction is of help, we try to increase it to our advantage. The first one, you may have noticed that the surface of a tire has some designs or patterns on it, and these are called treads. So you can see in the screen, these are called treads, and they are provided to, why they are designed like this, why they have treads means they are provided to increase friction between the road and the tire. This friction reduces the tendency to slip and improves the grip of the tire on the road. Just like that, the soles of the shoes have grooves for the same reason. You can see in the picture the soles of the shoes, the designs on the shoes have grooves for the same reason, to reduce the friction. I hope you all would have seen the basketball court, isn't it? So, if you observe that basketball court, they are made slightly rough to prevent slipping. Okay, so the friction helps the players not to fall down on the ground. Just like that, the handle of a cricket bat has layers of coarse string covered by a close fitting rubber tube. This increases friction, which improves the grip. So far we have seen the advantages of friction. Friction causes problem too. So you can see the gear in the screen. The teeth of the gear have worn out due to friction. Since friction prevents motion, it is a disadvantage in machine with the moving parts. For example, a bicycle has a number of moving parts. While cycling, you waste some effort in overcoming friction between these parts. So rust and dust make the surface of these parts rougher, which increases friction. That is why it requires greater effort to ride an old rusty bicycle. It is easy for you to ride a new cycle, but it is very difficult, you feel very difficult to ride a old cycle. A sliding windows is shown in this picture. Just like that, shutters, door hinges and sliding windows having moving parts. So have moving parts, and it becomes difficult to use them when the friction increases because of rusting or any other reason. When they move, they have a contact with the other object, so that due to friction it becomes very old, and because of the rusting and some other reason it becomes difficult to use them. This is an example for a machine. So friction causes heating in all machines with moving parts. This can ruin a machine unless proper precautions are taken. Over a period of time, the moving parts of a machine, tires, the sole of shoes, etc., wear out due to friction. So, even our teeth wear down due to friction, isn't it? Interestingly, rats and some other animals keep gnawing at things to prevent the teeth from becoming too long. Whenever friction causes problem, we try to reduce it, isn't it? For example, we try to reduce friction in machines to make them run smoothly and with less effort. So reducing friction also increases the life of machine. The most common method of reducing friction in the moving part of a machine is to apply some oil. We used to do that in our bicycle or some other machines. If it makes some sounds or something, we use some oil or lubricant so that it runs smoothly. So these materials are called lubricants, and if your cycle is cleaned and oiled properly and regularly, it will run smoothly and last long. The sliding part of machines are made as smooth as possible to reduce friction, and also it is difficult to push a trolley from in the while you do some shopping or some other thing. But when the trolley has wheel, or the luggage bag has some wheels, or even the school bag has some wheels, if it has some wheel, the job becomes a lot easier, because friction is less when something rolls over a surface than when it slides over a surface. Rolling is different from sliding. Okay, so friction is less when it rolls. We say that rolling friction is less than the sliding friction. So you can remember the following: limiting friction is greater than the sliding friction, and the sliding friction is greater than the rolling friction. And that is why the trolleys, computers, TV tables, or luggages are provided with wheels. When an object moves through air, it faces resistance from air. Resistance means it stops to not to fly or not to move in the air. So the resistance to motion offered by air is very similar to friction and is commonly referred to as air resistance. So even liquids offer such resistance. So to reduce the resistance offered by air and water, aeroplanes, cars, and boats are shaped in a particular way, a particular shape, a design, and this is called streamlining. And nature streamlines the bodies of birds and fishes. So aeroplanes and boats, you can see in the picture, they have a streamlined shape to reduce the resistance offered by air and water. Okay, children, in this class we have seen about ways of increasing friction, advantages of friction, disadvantages of friction, and how to reduce the friction, and also you have seen about the streamline shape. So we finished this lesson 4. Next class we learn the next lesson. Thank you.